So I use Figma, you use Figma, we all use Figma. Today we'll be tackling 4 different effects to level up your Figma game. Oh, like drop shadows. You can grab the file that I'll be working on from the link in the pinned comments down below. The very first effect we'll be looking at is the Kaleidoscope Effect. The best use cases I can think of are credit cards, stickers, and buttons. Let's get into it. We'll start off with a circle and a radial gradient. You can use whatever colors you want, but I'll be using the colors of the rainbow for this one. Once we've done that, let's add another layer with an angular gradient. This one we're going to alternate black and white an even amount of times. We're doing 8 here, but 10 and 6 would also work well. We're going to set the blend mode to be difference. Then we'll duplicate this layer and set the blend mode to screen. Make sure this layer is on top of everything else, otherwise the effect won't work. And boom, there you have it. But we can make it better. Let's add some noise with the noise and texture plugin. Then let's add some text, make it thicker, and set the blend mode to overlay. Now that is looking good. The usability is pretty bad, but it looks good nonetheless. Can we go back? I kind of lost you. Okay, that was a lot of information, so here's a quick recap that you can screenshot for later. Next up, we have the clay effect. These are really good for isometrics or illustrations that need some depth to them. Let's hop into it. Let's grab a rectangle and select a color from this general area, since saturated colors don't work too well for this effect. Next, let's add an inner shadow with these settings, which will cover the top and right edges of our rectangle. We'll add another inner shadow with these settings, which will cover the bottom and left edges of our rectangle. We can add a drop shadow to this for a better effect, but that's pretty much all there is to it. A pretty simple yet cool effect. Oh, very nice, looking good. Next up, we have the metallic effect, which is great for credit cards, metal mockups, and not a whole lot else. Let's start with a rectangle and round the edges. We'll apply a linear gradient to it with mostly grays and dark blues. The colors on the edge matter less, but for this effect to work, we need to have a noticeable change in color in the middle. Then we'll add another layer with a white radial gradient to it and set the blend mode to overlay. To give it some depth and thickness, we'll add an inner shadow with these settings and then another inner shadow with these settings. Now let's say we want our credit card to be rose gold. We can do that too. Just add another layer with a fill of 20% and select whatever color you want. Reds, oranges, and blues are fantastic to add and can give you a gold, bronze, or even titanium feel. Damn, I'm gonna try that one out. Our last and probably most useful effect is creating mesh gradients in Figma with absolutely no plugins. I use these on websites, posters, slideshows, and just about everything else that I can. Here's how we do this. Let's start off with a circle with some transparency and a blur. This will be our background that we'll place other circles on top of. Then we can add another circle with transparency and blur, but this time we're gonna set the blend mode to overlay. If we repeat this a couple times, we start to see a cool mesh coming together. Importantly, this is more of an art than a science. The one thing I will add is that the more layers you use that overlap, the brighter and more vibrant your gradient will become. So don't be afraid to use 8 to 10 layers or even more. Play around with the colors, blurs, and transparencies until you're happy. And there you go, 4 effects to make you that much better with Figma. If you did enjoy this, drop a thumbs up and I'll make a part 2. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one.